So, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are watching this on YouTube, welcome to this video tutorial about how to do how to light a scene in Unity. In this case, we're going to go for an outdoor scene, which is always a little bit more difficult than indoor because you have a limited amount of lights that you can use. An outdoor scene usually also only has the sun and the ambient lighting, which is the sky. So we're just going to walk through this and how I would approach this. I've got a scene over here, and first thing I kind of want to do is organize this because it's just a mess, right? So I want to create an empty game object here. I'm going to call this something like world, for example. And in this, I'm going to drag everything that I have under it, so it can be a little bit more organized, which is always really helpful. And then once I'm done, we can actually add a camera because I don't have a camera yet. So I'm going to add a camera here. That's it. I'm going to find a nice location for this. So I'm going to look at my preview here. I did a pre-bake. That's why it's dark. Because the first baking of the light always takes a little while, so I did it already. I'm just gonna see if I can find a nice angle here that captures the entire scene a little better, like maybe like this. This is good enough. So right now we have a camera in here, nothing else, and the scene itself we have no lighting at all, right? You can see there's no skybox, there's no light, whatever. So the first thing I want to focus on is adding a light box here. In this case, go to my lighting tab here, and you can see that my skybox material is empty. I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna use the default one, which is the procedural skybox. Well, this is the good start. In this case now, if I hit bake, I still get nothing, like a little bit more ambient lighting, but that's it. So that's a good start, right? So now you can see like what I'm doing here, and then I'm gonna change it a little bit so the camera angle here is not that pretty. So I'm gonna slide it, rotate it. This is more interesting. Maybe a little bit more to the right, so we get this head here a little bit more in the picture. Just finding a nice composition here. This is okay. It's fine. So first step that I want to do is simple rule, right? If it doesn't move, make everything static. In this case, well, I'll show you the difference. So first I'm going to make it not static, and I'm going to hit play, and I want to show the statistics. Right now we have 242 batches or draw calls, so every object in the scene gets a draw call. And draw call is nothing more than a command telling the GPU like, hey, I need you to render something here on the screen. So hello Devin. So in this case we have 242 draw calls, which is not bad, but I mean ideally you want to have less. So what if we turn down to static, right? You'll see what happens. I'm going to turn to static, I'm going to hit play again, and you'll see we now have only 34 draw calls, right? So that's a increase of I don't know how many, but a lot. So we saved 208 draw calls just by turning everything static. So there's a golden rule that if it doesn't move, turn static. If you turn static, you also get more options when it comes to lighting. So you can actually like bake the lighting in the scene right now, or maybe even use like a thing called occlusion culling, which I'll show as well. So it gives you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to lighting. So I'm gonna add just gonna turn my light here. Now I just want to add an actual light, so I'm going to go for a directional light, which is nothing more than a light that lights literally into the entire scene. You can see now, right now, when I rotate it around, you can see we get nice shadow casting here. The cool thing as well, if I rotate it down, you can see that the sky will also change based on the angle. Right, so now I get a nice sunset. It doesn't work that well, as you can see, right, because right now the sun is setting, but my light here is now pointing upwards, so that's not really what you want to have. So I'm kind of like find a nice angle that you want to have. In this case, something like this maybe. Let's go for a sunset view. So I'm gonna go to my directional light here, and I'm gonna set it to something like deep orange. Or maybe too much. A little bit more towards the pink. Just want to get a nice atmosphere going, right? Nothing else. So this works okay. So the lighting has, so you have the intensity, which does exactly what you think it does. Indirect multiplier as well, which you can't see right now. And shadow, so you got no shadow, hard shadow, and soft shadows. And soft shadows means you get a nice soft edge around the shadows based on distance, right? So usually when it starts here, it's nice and crisp. I can turn the music off. There you go. And just turn it off completely. There you go. And by the further you get away, you get a little more softer here. Soft shadows just look a little bit prettier, right? You don't really need it, it just looks a little bit more sexy. And these settings here, you don't look at them, you don't need them, to be honest. A halo, I advise you never to use this because it looks horrible. I don't know why it's in there. God knows why. And a cookie is a texture that will project that image as a light. So for example here you can use like a shadow map. You can actually cast interesting shadows. But for now I'm not going to touch this. But what I want to touch on is the mode. So you get mixed, real time and baked. Real time means, well, real time lighting, right? So the shadows will update. If you change the lighting here, it will actually update the shadows as well. Baked means that that you can change the lighting, but it's not going to change the shadows at all. So it's just fixed. And mixed is it's a combination of both, which is why it's called mixed. So I'm going to set it to mix right now, and now if I bake again, because I already did a quick bake, it's gonna take a little bit longer here. So now you get like passes over here, right? You get 11 passes in total here, and the first one is always the slowest, especially the visibility one. Don't know why, but in the meantime, right, the settings over here, you got the light map settings, which is important. I always use Enlighten, and the other ones are under preview. So you got the progressive CPU and progressive GPU, which it will light bake the part that you're looking at in the view part, which is nice if you want to have a quick update on what you are lighting right now. But in this case, the scene is not that big, so I don't care that much about it. So I'm just gonna set it to Enlighten. It's just gonna bake a little bit. Might take a little while. It's something to keep in mind, right? Because a very large scene can take literally days to bake. Once I had a scene that was, I think, 2,000 meters by 2,000 meters, and I think it honestly took 2 days on a very low settings. Otherwise, I couldn't even bake it because it was too big. So that's something to keep in mind as well. That if you have a big level, then you will need to chop it up into pieces. This one is almost done. In theory, compositing now, and okay, there you go. You can also see, right, the actual. You get a little bit more of a bluish hue in the shadows here from the actual skybox, so that helps as well. That's a good start. And then you get these settings over here called ambient occlusion. I always turn it on because it's sexy, and the final gather. Now this this enables color bleeding and actual GI or global illumination. So, for example, right, imagine that this part over here is red and light is shining on it. Then the color red will actually bounce off onto the floor and onto this part over here as well. So you get this nice gradient of the actual color, which is really nice, which looks really realistic as well. So let's continue on, right? So make sure for baking that you have everything set to static, otherwise it does not work. You can bake all day long, but it doesn't do anything, right? So make sure that you set it to static, otherwise it doesn't work. So skybox here, we have a skybox, we have a skybox. In this case, I actually kind of want to go for like a gradient here, because I kind of like it. So we can set my own gradient here. For example, I can make it a little bit more towards the orange, maybe. That's the sky color. Equate color is always a little bit lighter. And the ground color, I'm just gonna keep it like that. So this will now actually bake the lighting as a gradient, right? So the skybox won't change, but the colors that will light the scene will change in theory. Let's let it finish here. So we can now get the options turned on here as well. So the ambient occlusion and final gathering. That's why it takes a little bit longer. There it is, right? So you can now see that the overall color changed. So if I now change this again to something like, I don't know, let's go crazy here. Let's go super crazy. Let's make it pink and yellow-ish. If I bake it again, you can see that it will change again based on the input that I gave here. So it's probably gonna look hideous, but it's fine. Oh, it's actually not that. It's actually not that bad, 2 minutes. Okay. So let's get real here. So let's do orange and a little bit something like this maybe. This is fine. So this is a nice way as well to have a little bit more control over what the actual skylight will emit. But I don't know if you noticed this, but this actual text, this object here has a couple of issues. Which if you don't know about it, you can spend forever looking at it. But one thing that's important here, because the UVs are actually not that good of this model, right? So I'm going to show you a trick. So if that happens for you as well, just grab all the assets here and turn on generate light map UVs. So then we'll actually chop up all the faces in an individual light map, which will help increasing the actual lighting detail. And also I kind of want to add like a normal map here as well. So I'm going to grab all of these. I'm just going to duplicate them. I'm going to set them to normal map. I'm going to convert from grayscale. I'm just going to hit apply and have a little bit of patience here. And that's it. So now I have UV maps. but they'll probably look hideous. So I want to tweak them a little bit. So I'm gonna go for smooth here, and maybe less some bumpiness. Cause right now you can see it's really sharp. I kind of don't want that. This is a little bit better. So in the materials, I'm gonna find them. And this is my material over here. It's nice and pink. Oh, actually, this is not my material. Where is my material? Oh, yeah, it's not here. So another different trick you can do as well is you can go to materials here and then use external materials legacy, and then it will actually create the material map for you. There we go. We should now have a material, right? There you go. So I'm gonna plug in my textures here now. So I'm gonna grab my normal map. Way too much. Gonna make it a little bit less. Let's do 0.4. It's more than enough. And if you're wondering, I'm using the 3D with extras, so we also have post-processing that we can add. I'm going to save in here 0.4. It's enough. Oh, this one is probably my fine. I'm going to keep them. And I think it's this one, 0.4 as well. So this will give a little bit more detail in the actual textures, otherwise they'll look pretty bland. So, okay. See, now the lighting's fucked up. You can see right that you got splotches here everywhere because we just turned on the generate light map UVs. So we need to again bake it. So I'm gonna go back to my lighting here. I'm gonna hit generate lighting and just give it a couple of minutes here. It should take that long. 13. It's okay. So the visibility and the lighting transport always takes the longest. So you just have a little bit of patience. Which of course we all have, because we're amazing. So this usually takes the longest. Also depending on your scene, of course, how big it is, but yeah. Just give it a second or two, shouldn't take too long. You can see right that the lighting information here is completely gone haywire. Which is not bad in this case, because we need to bake it again anyway, so. Let's give it a couple of minutes. Almost done. So I ordered a webcam, so my next video should have my face on it as well. Which I don't know if it's a good thing or next time. Finally got it being baked, and you should see massive difference as well in textures. There you go. But this is actually not that bad. So we now got nice ambient occlusion here as well, right? On the edges here, on the borders, you got nice ambient occlusion, which is really. I actually have an SSD. This is on an SSD. So okay, let's say it's real fast. Let's go to camera here, and it still looks really boring because the lighting is not that interesting yet. So I'm gonna change it a little bit. So first thing I want to do is I want to change my skybox here, right? It looks not that interesting at all. So we can use a custom one. You can also grab a different one from the asset store if you want to as well. So if you go to the asset store, for example, you can find a whole bunch of free HDR images that we're gonna use. I'm gonna just hit Google real fast and just type HDR, which stands for high dynamic range image. Let's go for the free ones because I'm cheap. And I think there's a Dutch guy here. Yeah, this one. It's actually really nice. So I'm just gonna grab it, gonna download it. I hope it doesn't take that long. They're usually pretty huge, so in the meanwhile we'll just continue, right? So first thing I want to do is I want to tone down my lighting in general, because right now the intensity is pretty high. So what if we go for something like 2.52 maybe? Let's go for 5, like this. The intensity indirect multiplier, you can also lower it down as well, but usually I tend to leave it at 1. But the main culprit right now is just the skybox, right? It's really bright. That's why the entire scene will get lit pretty bright as well. So we really need to change that. You can also use the custom reflections here as well. Let's see if you can change something else here. Not really. So we can also change the colors here. So I'm gonna tone down my HDR values over here a little bit. There's something like this. Let's do this. This one even less. This one is not that important, so I'm gonna hit generate again. It should be a little bit darker now, in theory. but it's a bit of dirty trick, but you can also always use the post processing to actually, yeah, there you go. To actually make everything darker. It's a bit of a cheat, but it actually will work. So let's go to camera. This is still not interesting, but it's a little bit better. I'm gonna up my intensity a little bit again. Let's just do 0.8 here. Maybe a little bit more saturation in my colors, so maybe a little bit more towards the right. Not too much though. There we go. That's okay. So it's also boring because we are lacking some features. For example, we're missing fog, right? There's always fog in a scene. It doesn't matter where you look at. Even in like real life, there's always fog. So you can turn it on by just turning on fog here in lighting settings. In this case though, it's set to gray, so I kind of want to change it to something like also like reddish. So you get a nice haze here. That's kind of really cool. You can also up the density here as well if you want to, but be careful. Not like this. Maybe like 2, and it's 1, 2, 3. That's nice. It's a little bit better. So it gives you a little bit more of a overall sense of it, right? So it feels a little bit more like an actual sunset. And then we can actually add a little bit more lights in here, because right now we only have one light in the sky dome. So I kind of want to add more here. So what if there's like this light here in the mouth? So I'm gonna add here a point light. Just gonna grab it. Gonna find a nice location for it, like this maybe. Okay, I'm gonna change the range because it's way too big right now. So I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller here, so it's just the mouth. Let's go here, maybe even bigger. Just want to get an illusion that there's actual something in here. So I'm gonna change my camera a little bit. You can actually see it. There we go. And now I can see it here. So by default, right, this is really boring colors. I'm gonna make it a little bit more interesting, maybe like a more bluish color here. Maybe also a little bit more intensity. And also make sure that you have shadows on. And we're gonna set the, oh, there it goes. Also, okay, I have to wait. Did it actually do anything? Let's import this bad boy. So the famous Dutch skies, which are the best skies apparently in the world, obviously, because it's Dutch now. There you go. I'm gonna hit import all. Let's see what happens. Oh, oof! I shouldn't have done that. As you can imagine, right, these files are massive. That's why it takes so long to load. Open EXR files or .exr are perfect because they have a 32-bit floating point color range, which means they can have a ridiculous amount of colors. I think in the several trillion colors that you can have, which is awesome, right? So they actually have a lot of lighting information, but again, they are massive, which is the downside of it. I'm actually looking to see if I can find the amount of colors here, but I'm probably too scared to look. I think it's in the several trillion colors. Oh, it nowadays even has 64-bit floating point, so it's 64 to the power of 64, I think. Amount of colors that you can have. So yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's mostly used in like the movie industry for saving their frames for render. Because then you can change everything if you want to, and of course for HDR images as well, for creating sky domes or sky lights or whatever you want to call them. It just takes a little bit longer to load in than I expected, but we have patience, right? Wow. Oh, and we're done. Eesh. Come on. Come on. And almost. There you go. Okay. So back to my point light that I was working on. It's set to mix now, right? So it will bake. So let's bake it now real fast, or maybe we can change. Do we already have that sky in here? That we have. Let's go for a dark one. So this one is nice. Gonna double click it. This is now our skybox, as you can see, right? And I don't care about the actual images in the background, right? You don't care about it. You just want to have like what kind of color scheme do I want to use. In this case, it's nice. It's nice and dark, which is really nice. Of course, the light is coming from over here, but we're just gonna pretend that we don't see that. Let's also grab the light source here. And we're now gonna set this one back again to the skybox. So now again the image will actually bake it, so will actually cast lighting on the entire scene. So I'm gonna bake the new light that I added over here. Again, it shouldn't take that long since we pre-baked already. I'm gonna go back to my game view in a little bit. We should now see a complete change of colors in the entire scene. Not a little bit better. So it's okay. Still not a fan of it, but you know, it looks okay. Still a bit flat, but so we now got a nice lighting over here, but we can add more. For example, we can also have like a light on the pillar over here. That's always good. So I'm gonna just duplicate this light here. Just gonna drag it a little bit towards here. And then I'm gonna look in my scene view. I'm gonna undock it for a second so I can have a closer look. I kind of want to create like this small edge here of light. Maybe I could do it like this. That's better. Just finding something that looks interesting to light. Oh, this is also not that bad actually. So you can see it casts a really nice soft lighting here, which is kind of cool. Is what I was looking for. Oh, I should have done that. There we go. But we could probably even add more, right? Because also the same thing here. This one. You can add one here as well. So I'm gonna again duplicate it. I'm just gonna drag it into to the left. I just want to see, do I get a nice lighting over here, maybe a little bit higher and less of a range. So I don't want it to light the actual ground, just the pillar. So like this is nice. This is not that bad actually. And maybe, well, we could add like a light here as well from the side view. So I'm gonna add a new light here. I'm gonna add an area light, which is just a plane of light. I'm just gonna rotate 90 degrees here. You can see in which case it's pointing at. In this case, it's this direction to the right. Just gonna grab it a little bit. I'm gonna place it in my scene. I'm gonna make it a lot bigger though. So we're gonna pretend here that there's like an exit over here that's actually casting light. So this is a little bit of a gamble, right, on the intensity and on the range. You just have to see and bake it and then just see it, right? I'm gonna make it blue here as well, just for contrast. A little bit more blue, and then I'm just gonna bake it and see what happens. I don't know. Just have to wait and see if something happens. I just want to get a nice, like, a hint of blue here. Don't know what's gonna happen though, but it's always done. I see no difference at all. So we need to up the intensity. I'm gonna go extreme here, like 29. Let's go. Let's just do this. So as you can imagine, right, this is a time-consuming job, because if you change something, you have to bake everything again, and you know it just takes time. I mean, I don't mind it personally. I think it's quite fun, but bit too much. Let's go for 5. Okay. But at least now we actually know it works, right? So the actual area light works. It's a good start. And that's better. So nice hint here of blue. That's it. So I don't like the overall sky lighting at all. So I'm gonna do a different trick here. I'm gonna grab my skybox here. I'm just gonna set it to none. So no lighting at all. And I'm gonna set the gradient here again. I'm gonna make them all really dark, like super dark. So minus on the equator as well. So minus on the HDR. And then I'm gonna add a giant area light that will actually light the entire scene from above, like this. So I'm gonna find, what is it aiming at? I think it's aiming in down. I think so. Okay, I'm gonna make it a lot bigger. A lot bigger. I want it to like light the entire scene almost. Oh shit. Come on. There you go. It's a bit of a simple trick here, but it can actually look really good. Something like this is fine, maybe a little bit higher. And again, I'm gonna change the color here. I kind of want to have like a dark bluish hint to it. Not too blue, maybe a little bit less here, something like this. Or maybe towards the purple even. Something like this. And let's see, right? So the gradient here, also can use the color here if you want to as well. Actually, I'm gonna use that one. I'm just gonna hit bake and see what happens. This might take a little bit longer because of the new added area light, but let's go back to the game view. No, I don't see any difference, which is helpful. Let's have a look. Let's go gradient here. Gradient, and then let's bake this again. Okay, so we can't really tell, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn off my direction light here to see what happens. I'm going to turn off the fog here as well, so you have a better idea. Okay, what is actually now lighting the scene and what is not. So I'm going to grab these air lights here as well. For now, I just want to get a idea of okay, what is lighting my scene right now, because I don't know, to be honest. So I just want to have a look at it. I set this one to shadow mask as well, just a little bit better. Let's have a quick look, see what's lighting the scene right now. Because I kind of want to have like a, that's better. So right now the only thing that is actually lighting the scene is our area light. Actually it's nothing, sorry. I'm going to turn it back on, this one. Let's do this again. But you can see, right, it's nice, it's subtle. That's actually kind of what I want to have here right now. Let's see what we can do it with this one. And now I'm going to change some camera settings. Okay. So I'm going to grab my camera here. I'm going to make it black completely. Actually, let's do it a little bit like this. So the area light here is actually lighting a lot more than I expected, so I'm going to turn it down. So it's too bright right now, so I'm gonna bake this again, and then I'm gonna turn on the lights one by one, see okay how much are they actually influencing the lighting in the scene, and how much do we need to change them? Because it's a little bit easier to start from the ambient lighting and then work up towards the directional light instead of going the other way around like I just did. So my advice would be okay, start with the ambient lighting, then build up. So this case is actually not that bad, maybe a little bit less here actually. That's the 0.4. I kind of like the color though, so I'm going to turn on the first two spotlights here. I'm going to turn this back on, so you can see right, it's too much. I'm going to lower it down. That's better. Same for this one probably as well. See, there's still a little bit of a hint there, which is nice, and this one as well. Let's turn it on as well. Also way too much. There you go. That's better. Let's make this again. So it actually updates all the lighting information that we have. Give it a minute again, as usual. It's almost done. There we go. So let's turn on the directional light, and let's see how much. So the difference will be massive, right? So without it and with it. So maybe we could turn this into a night scene. I'm gonna grab my light here. I'm gonna make it really light bluish, like this, and turn it all the way down, like maybe like 0.2. Let's do 0.335. That's better. That's nice. So you get a nice scene here. I'm gonna turn this one into like dark blue. There you go. And let's again bake it. So it's a lot of baking. Wait for it, and done. Right. So actually, I'm kind of liking this while this is going, but it doesn't have that much atmosphere yet. So I'm going to again turn on my fog over here. Of course, I have to change the color scheme completely. This always a little bit tricky in the dark because light is added, of the fog is additive, so it's going to add lighting to the entire scene. So you have to be a little more careful here. what you do, and maybe a little bit of a hint of fog over here, that may be a little bit stronger. Let's find a sweet spot here. Oh, it's 2.3, that's fine. And then later on we're going to change it though, so it actually lights everything. So this is actually not that bad in my opinion. But I can imagine, right, that there's a fire somewhere, like a fire somewhere here. Let's, instead of the arrow light over here, let's add a fire. So we get a nice contrast as well with the actual light. So I'm going to grab this one, I'm going to push it back here towards this part. I'm going to make it orange, super orange. And you can always see this actually adds a lot of atmosphere to the entire level. Let's change the height a little bit higher here. Maybe a little bit less range. Something like this. This is actually kind of cool. So again, I'm going to hit bake. It's set to mixed. Everything else is okay. You don't have to change anything else. So I'm going to bake it. And then we're going to move on. Yep, I'm going to put probes in there as well. That's the next step. Let's bake it, bake it, bake it. There you go. So by default, right, every object in the scene which is shiny will only reflect the environment, the actual skybox. In this case though, since our objects are not shiny at all, so I'm going to make them shiny a little bit shinier. Give them a little bit of like smoothness here, just a smidge. You can see what happens, right? So it looks horrible. Which is because the only thing that they currently reflect is the sky, and not the actual environment, right? So we need to change them. I'm gonna grab them above to 0.2. You can see it looks weird, right? So how we can fix this by adding probes or reflection probes. So light and then reflection probe. I'm gonna add them a little bit. So they come in cubes pretty much. So I'm gonna set this one to 0, 0, 0. I will start here. Then I'm just gonna place them where I want them to be. So in this case I'm gonna start here. The size is okay for this one, maybe a little bit up. You can make it big here in the box size. For example, you can make them way bigger or smaller or whatever. You can also set the resolution here. I'm gonna up it to 256, which is more than enough. And then again, I'm gonna go back here to the top view here. I'm gonna copy paste them. So I'm gonna Ctrl D them, hold Ctrl. So it will actually just snap, and do it again. I think it was here. And one more time here. Just copy paste them. Oh, wrong. One more. There you go. Same thing again. I'm just gonna grab them, copy paste them, and copy paste them. Now, since I like to be organized, I'm gonna make a new empty game object here. I'm gonna call it probes. Just put everything in here. There we go. I'm going back to my game view here, and then the probes need to be baked, right? So I'm gonna bake here, click, and then bake all probes, and then it's gonna take a little bit longer to calculate all the reflection data here. But then you see what happens. Okay, so you can now see, right, the actual environment will be reflected in the actual objects, which is really nice. It's kind of what you want to have. Right now you can see though that the background is still really blue, right? Because it takes one from the actual camera. So for this one over here. So I'm going to grab this one. This color over here is 12, 11, 19. I'm going to do it here as well. So for all my probes here, I'm going to change this one here to 12, 11, 19. So it has the same color background as my actual camera does. So it will actually match the lighting here. So I'm going to bake it again. Now it's the proper background color. There you go. And you can see everything becomes darker immediately. So if I set this one to white, it's going to show what happens. It's going to be awful, but I'm going to set it to white. You'll see what happens. White. So we're not doing that. Actually, the alpha is 0 as well. So again, I'm going to go for my actual value from my camera here. So 12, 11, 19. There we go. And let's bake this again. There you go, much better. So how can we add even more atmosphere to this? Well, it's one thing that always works really well. It's just adding a little bit more of like moving objects. Right now everything is static, so if you just add something here, let's add a particle system real fast. I'm going to emit it from a box. So shape, I'm going to set it to box. Gonna make the box huge. So probably like 20, let's do 30 by 30 by 30. Okay, a giant box of objects emitting. Actually, yeah, this one should be a little bit lower. Let's do 10. Gonna make sure it's actually sitting on the ground. Oh, it does not work. This should be 5. There you go. Okay. So this will be my fireflies. So that's the first thing I want to do is I want to change my start speed here. Right now it's set to 5, right? So every particle will float away with a speed of 5. But it's all the same, right? So I'm gonna set here, click on here, I'm gonna set it to random between 2 constants. I'm gonna set 1 to -1 and 1 to 1. And I can see, right, one is going up, one is going down, one is going up, one is going down, which is really nice. Same here for the start size. I'm gonna change it here as well. So between 2 constants, I'm gonna set it like 0.1 and 0.5, so a little bit small, right? In my game view here, you can see it now. They're floating around, they're happy. Maybe a little bit more of a lifetime here. So lifetime here means how long is a particle alive. Again, same here. I'm going to grab 2 constants here. I'm going to set to 5 and let's do 10. So this stay alive a little bit longer. But still, right, they only go up and down and that's it. So I'm going to go scroll down a little bit. I'm going to go on to noise. Then you can see that they start flying around a little bit more like actual fireflies. Also on up here the scroll speed. So you can see, right, there's noise here. If I actually scroll up a little bit, you can see that it starts moving, right? So the behavior of the particles will always be different, so you get really nice different kinds of behavior. I'm gonna a little bit lower, actually 0.2, still too big, 0.1, so 0.05. That's actually pretty cool. Let's change the color a little bit to orangey. There we go. This looks pretty cool already. I'm maybe a little bit less on the opacity. There we go. I want to have more, so I'm gonna go to emission here. I'm gonna set it to like 100 and see what happens. That actually is cool. Okay, and maybe a little bit too much, so let's do 75. Yeah, I actually kind of like that. So, but right now the particles, when they die, they just vanish out of thin air. So what I want to do though is when it's about to die, I want to change the alpha. I'm going to set here the color over lifetime. I'm going to turn it on. I'm gonna set you, click on this, and then this is the color, right? This is the color that you can choose. This is the alpha, so I'm gonna add 2 more. Just gonna click and click, and I'm gonna turn this one back to not that one, this one, alpha of 0, so no alpha, and this one here as well. So when the particle is being born, it will also like fade in, and when it dies, it also fades out, right? So you get this nice fade in, fade out of the actual particles instead of like just popping up like I'm here and pop, I'm dead again. This is really nice. You get a nice overall scene. And maybe we can do more, right? You can also add a little bit more. We can actually add like a giant particle system here as well. Again, I'm going to use a box, similar as the last one. Just going to grab it here. Same thing. Ooh, come on, there you are. Box, similar values here, so 30, 30, let's do 15 now, a little bit more. Set everything back to 0, 0, 0. Oh, wrong button, this one. Making sure it's up there. I'm gonna make it actually a lot smaller though. Like this. And in this case, I don't want to have them to have any speed at all, right? No speed at all. They just pop up in the actual viewport, that's it. I'm gonna add a lot more of them. I'm gonna go for like 10,000 here, but the max is kept right now to 1,000. So I'm gonna add a 0 here, and then you can see that's just one giant blob of particles, which is for what I want to do is perfect, right? So I kind of want to have like this ground fog idea. So I'm gonna set it to color the sky a little bit, so I'll make it a little more bluish. Then we just turn down the alpha all the way, right? So you just get a hint of stuff. Okay, we need more, and then I'm gonna make them a little bit bigger. I'm gonna set the size to 2. Like, see, right, it covers the entire ground. Maybe we can add a little bit of noise here. Let's see what happens. Just be a little bit careful. Let's do the strength a little bit lower here, 0.2 for example. And a little bit of scrolling speed. So it still moves a little bit, right? You get a little bit of movement in here. And same thing here for the color of lifetime here. And I'm gonna add 2 alphas here. So click here and here. Again, this alpha should be 0, so when it's being born, it fades in. And this one here as well. Alpha also when it dies. We can maybe add more of them. I'm not sure yet. Come on, thank you. See right now, actually, you can see gaps here. I don't like that, so I'm gonna add more. So I'm gonna add like, I don't know, let's do 3000 here for a second, see what happens. Ooh, just like it, yeah. So we get a little bit of a hue here, and then I'm gonna hit play here to see everything in action. So both particles are active. Yeah, the alpha could be a little bit lower here actually, of the fog on the ground. Well, it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. So let's change it fast, real fast. The alpha here, a little bit lower even. Let's do like 5. There you go. Cool. Let's make this child here real fast, so they both are activated. So simple trick, by the way, for those who didn't know: if you have 2 particle systems or 10 of them, if you have one parent particle system, when you have this one activated, everything will be activated. So all the children will be active as well. It's a little bit of a trick, but it actually works really well. So what else can we do? Well, lighting wise, it's pretty okay right now, in my opinion. It's pretty good. It's not done, but it's okay. Actually, I want to change this one. It's a little bit more towards the orange. I think that will look a little bit more interesting. Let's have a quick look here. Yeah, that's a little bit more interesting. So you get a little bit more contrast here in the light in the colors. So let's bake it again one last time. Shouldn't take too long. And then we get to the fun part. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. The probes, yeah. Okay, so for a, wow, what's this? Cool. Don't care. So, I just want to walk you through these things real fast, so because we can now do like the final lighting calculation, which we're gonna do. I'm not gonna hit play though. I'm not gonna hit bake, but yeah. So this one is the most important one, the light map resolution. If you up this one, the higher it is, the higher your light map will be. So like 10 is more than enough. If you want to go like super duper final render or generate lighting, then you do something like 15, 20. It's fine. Light map size is good. You can add more final gather here if you want to. It will also help. And of course, light map parameter here as well. You can actually set it to like high or medium. Usually high is more than enough. But this will consume a lot of RAM, so I'm gonna show you real fast. I'm gonna grab it. You can always see that it has issues with this. So it pops up right real fast. So if I go higher than this, it's gonna create even more, or it will devour even more RAM. So this is something to keep in mind, that if you don't have enough RAM, it will literally crash. It will crash Unity. So it's something to keep in mind, that this will only work if your PC can handle it. If you can't go like high resolution, then to find the location or find a parameter that will actually work for you. You can also make a custom one if you want to. But usually, you know, very low will always work. But you can see, right, it's slowly creeping up, the actual RAM. It's not that bad this case because it's a small scene. But yeah, the one that I was talking about with the 2000 mile or 2000 meters, if I want to do it on high resolution, I think it would take me like 64 gigs of RAM alone just to be able to bake the lighting, which is not something I have yet. But yeah, so let's just wait for this to bake and then we'll move on. So since I'm using the standard one, what I kind of want to do here is I want to create, let's see, where is it nowadays? It's not there at all. It's not, no. Okay, so I'm using the prefab system, right? The standard extra system. So I kind of want to add a post-processing stuff here. So I'm gonna grab the scene view in a little bit, and this will solve us all. I'm gonna grab a post-processor volume, this one over here, which is just a cube, right? But I kind of want to fix this, so I'm gonna do like 50, 50, 50. Should cover the entire scene. It does. I'm gonna turn on is global. I'm gonna make a new post-processing profile. Set the layer to post-processing. Same goes for the camera as well. So all set is one as well to post-processing, and then we can actually get to use it. So first thing I kind of want to do is I want to add. Let's see if it actually works here. I'm gonna add bloom Easy one to check. I'm gonna turn it on and let's see if I actually get bloom. And my game view of here, I do not, right? I get nothing. Because it's a little bit tricky nowadays, so I'm gonna add here. Let's see if it's still in here. Should be under rendering. I want to add a layer here, this one. Post-processing layer. Again, layer, post-processing, and there we go. We should now be able to actually have bloom. So let's check it out. Still down. That's annoying. I always find it weird that sometimes it just works out of the box and sometimes it doesn't work at all. Let's lower this down a lot. Actually, oh, it does work actually. Sorry. So we now have like post-processing stack. Beautiful, right? So you need the post-process volume depending on which version you're using, right? So if you're using the video with extras, you need to do it manually. So you need to add a post-processing volume and then set the layer to post-processing. Also same for the camera, and also add a post-processing layer, which is also set to post-processing. I don't think I've ever set that many post-processing in a single line here, but I've just done it, right? If you're using the HD, the high definition render pipeline, you need to add a scene settings, and then it does the same thing, right? So let's have a quick look. I maybe want to lower this down a little bit, so you can actually have a little bit more. So now bloom, right? In this case, it doesn't do. Oh, actually, this is kind of cool. Let's see if we can have a little bit more glow here on the fireflies. We do. While this bakes. So you can add, right? Let's have a look. You can add ambient occlusion, which is always good. I always like ambient occlusion even more, right? So you can up the intensity here a little bit, then you can see, right, you get nice extra, little bit of ambient occlusion, but just be careful. Be really careful that you don't overdo this, because then it's gonna look hideous. I'm gonna add one more. I'm gonna add depth of field here as well, because that's always good. Turn on all, and then we have to find the length here that we want to use. So in this case, I want to have this sharp and everything else blurred. So I'm gonna go for the very large here, and then we're gonna find the sweet spot. A little bit trickier, but I think this will be okay. This is okay, I think. It's really tricky to get it right. A little bit more, a little bit less on the aperture. A little bit more here, and there we go. Cool. So let's add more, because we can. We're also going to add, that's all we can add. We're going to add vignetting, of course, because it's always good. The vignetting is just like the black borders here, so I'm going to up the intensity. You can see what it actually does. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. Then the best one is the color grading. It also adds screen space reflections. I don't think we actually have anything to reflect, but you know, it just looks good. Let's fold this back in, and then we're going to add the color grading, which is the biggest one. This one. Okay, so turn everything on. You can actually now change, you can play with everything, right? So you can change the temperature, you can make it a little bit more warmer, a little bit more colder, right? Just be careful that you don't overdo this, because this will look awful. So I'm going to set the tone mapping to ACAS, which is super high contrast, but you can see everything turns black. So I need to up the post exposure again, and then you can see, right, it's just a little bit more, you have a little bit more fidelity in the color. So I'll turn off and on, right? You can see it blue is a little bit more blue, the orange is a little bit more orange. Now it's just finding again the sweet spot here. Let's do 0.543. Let's turn off on again, see the difference. See, it's a little bit more, it just looks a little bit better, right? So you can also up the saturation to 100 or no saturation at all. And in between here, just be a little bit more careful here. I don't want to go too much. Tint as well, you can change the overall tint of the scene. You can make it a little more like Fallout, for example, here, but a little more creepier. Or maybe a little bit more fantasy, like with turning purple, or you know, it's up to you what you want to do here, but in this case I'm going to leave it at 0. Then you can also use the trackballs here, which is cool. You can make everything more blue or orange or everything in between. Just be careful with this one, right? Be really careful, because this can do amazing stuff, but it can also like ruin everything. So you have to be a little bit more careful here. Maybe a little bit more here towards this part over here. Maybe a little more. No, I'm gonna leave this one at nothing. Yeah, I kind of like this the bluish tint here as well. So you also get this one over here, which is actually the same thing. But you can do the U versus U here and U for saturation. And then you can say which color do I want to be more saturated, right? So I can add a key here, for example. Now no saturation at all, or saturated at all. But you can like pick the colors that you want to have. So I want to have the blues here, for example, a little bit more saturated than the rest. So I can make this more saturated, or maybe a little bit less here. Maybe I want the reddish color here, the orange, a little more saturated than everything else. So maybe a little more here. So I can play. Oh, let's wait for this. Okay. Oh, just click it away. So you can have control over which color is saturated. So it's actually really powerful if you're using it correctly. So maybe a little bit more. But it's a bit tricky, right? This is a little bit trickier than everything else, because this it's in a detail, right? So we get this nice. This is very blue though right now, but it's okay. I want to change the particle size though real fast. I want to set it to pre-warm and also pre-warm here as well, so they start immediately, so I don't have to wait for them to actually pop up. Let's do this. There you go. I think it's cool. Maybe the fireflies are still a little bit too big. 0.5 to 6. There you go. A little bit smaller. That's a little better actually. Okay. Kind of like this though. What else can we add here? You can add chromatic aberration. I'm not a fan, but what it actually does here, you can see if I pushed really extreme. Look at the corners here, right? I'm not a big fan. Because this is like overdone, but you know, if you like it, no, why not? Grain, don't use grain, and of course motion blur, the famous motion blur here. Let's hit play, and I'm not gonna set this to. There you go. So you can see how it actually works. So you kind of want to have maybe like the fireflies should have a little bit more like a motion blur over it. So up the sample count a little bit. Like you can see that they have a little bit of like a trail to it, which is really cool for a still scene. But in motion you would probably hate this with a burning passion. But in this case, I kind of like it. I'm gonna keep it. Okay. So pretty okay, right? We have, how many FPS do we have? We have, that's not that much. I'm afraid 55 FPS. Probably because a lot of overhead though, but yeah, it's fine. But you see, right, again, the draw calls here, right? 429 versus 823 that were saved, which is a massive increase. So let's make it a little bit more efficient, right? I'm gonna turn off lighting here for a second. And that is called occlusion culling, which is really helpful. So if you go to your window here, and then I think it's in general, it's not in general, it's rendering, occlusion culling here. What it does, right, if something is not visible to the camera, it will hide it. For example, my camera is over here, so everything like here will not get, well, it should not get rendered, right, because we can't see it anyway, so why is it getting rendered? By default though, it is rendered, because we don't tell it to not render it. So by using occlusion culling, we can actually say, okay, everything that is not visible to the camera, or not visible at all, because something's blocking it, you want to hide it. So I'm going to hit bake here real fast. You can see it adds cubes on it. So if I now hit play, I don't know what's going to happen though. Oh, let's not maximize this. Right now the detail is probably very low, right? So you can see nothing gets changed because the detail is very low, because we don't have that many settings here. So I'm going to go here again. Let's go here. Let's go to bake. So you can actually set the swans included here right now. You can see it just chops up in big ass cubes, these ones, and I want it to be smaller. I'm going to do like one here. It's going to hit bake again. Now you can see it creates a grid, a way bigger grid. And it just checks like if a grid is not visible to the camera because it's being blocked by something, I don't want it to render. So now if I do this again, if I can actually see this, view volumes, visualization. Still doesn't do anything for some reason, so let's do this again. Oh, I should probably set the camera. Let's go a little bit lower here even. Let's do 0.4. But occlusion culling is something you should always do, right? There's this famous GIF, whatever you want to call it. Let's see if I can find it. 0. Oh. Of building. Let's do this real fast. And maybe I'm gonna hit play here. Okay, for some reason it doesn't want to do this. Oh, no cameras have been selected. So there, oh, there we go. So how it actually works. Sorry, I didn't select the camera. So everything that is not visible right to the camera does not get rendered. You can see that there's a giant gap here. It is there though. So if I now move the camera, you can see what happens, right? It actually renders everything that gets into view. Now nothing. Let's turn it back here again. You can see things back. So this will save you a lot of FPS. So we're now up to 80 already, right? 80. We went from like 70 or 50 to 80. Similar here though for what happens to there it is. So this is one from Horizon Zero Dawn, right? It's the same trick. Exactly the same trick. So if you don't see it, don't render it. In this case, this is called frustum culling. It's a little bit a different thing. But it's just like if I can't see it, don't render it because it's pointless. And I think we're doing the same thing here right now. If you can't see it, don't render it because that's useless. So you can see right if I change the camera here, put it to here, nothing is visible. Everything is visible. If I move it all the way up here, nothing is visible, right? And then you go back here and you can see more and more. It's a very helpful method or technique to optimize your game or whatever you're making. Let's go put this back here where it actually belongs. There you go. So 85, 83 FPS, which is pretty good. Okay. So by default, right, we have frustum culling turned on. That's what it's called, frustum culling. It does it by default. I want to go through some settings here. So let's go to the settings. One thing that's important is what you're using as a renderer. In this case, what we're using here is we go to edit project settings here. You have a thing called graphics, right? And in here you have high tier 3, and rendering path right now is set to forward, which is not that good. So I'm gonna change it to deferred. I'm gonna change it here, deferred. It's probably gonna re-import everything, but this should make our game a little bit more high fidelic. So you can see right, the contrast now is a little bit bigger. The particles here are a little bit more stronger. So deferred is better, unless you're making a game for a mobile phone. Then don't use deferred. But if you're going for a PC, then definitely go for deferred. So let's see if I can do this again here. Project settings. Gonna lower down a little bit here. I'm gonna go back to forward. Oop, forward. See, let's look at the background here, and then this one again. So I get a little bit more contrast here, which is really good. Also, what I want to do, it's also important here. Again, project settings. I'm gonna go to my player here and make sure that it's set to linear. This is actually really important. Make sure it's set to linear because you have gamma and linear workflow, and the nowadays standard is linear. So make sure that you're using linear. Por favor, it's important that you do this because it can make a big difference. Also, quality right by default set to ultra, in my case at least. You can play with this if you want to. I'm not saying you should, but you can. Let's see what else we can do here. So rendering path is now set to deferred. We kind of want to use HDR here. It's always set on, but you want to turn it on anyway. You can see right, deferred and multi-sample anti-aliasing is not supported, so you can't do that. But that's fine because we do it here. Let's turn on AA. Let's do fast mode because that sounds really epic. But actually makes a difference, right? So if you look at the corners here, there's a little bit of a difference here. It's not that much though, but you can see it. Okay. Let's go back here. There we go. We can maybe add more here. No, I don't want to add more. So what else we can add? Well, maybe we can add a little bit more sound in the actual game, right? So right now it's a little bit boring. So let's see if I still have like a nice looking sound effect. I should have something in here. Let's find this real fast. Yep, I do. So let's grab this one. Oh no, I want to do the other one. I want to add the choir as we can. Just makes it a little bit more nice, you know. It's important. It's a big file. It's 80 MB. So right now I can just drag it in, right? It will actually create a source. Just drag it in here. Should create a or not. So we need to make a game object here. then I should be able to drag it in. There we go. So scale object, drag it in, done. Oh, where is it? Oh, now it's double. My bad. So in this case, do we use you have a 3D sound, right? In this case, it's a 3D sound. So I'll just show you what happens, right? It actually increases. If you're close to the object, it's gonna be louder. Right? I don't know if you can hear it. Probably not. Just a little bit. So. You can see right now distance is here. I'm gonna turn it down again. So, oh, this one here as well. So this is the difference. So I don't want it to be 3D sound, I want to be a 2D sound. So we can always hear it regardless of where we are in the actual scene. I want it to be on a loop. You can able to mute this. You can export this well to a master group, which is actually pretty nice. You can make new ones. It's a whole different topic. I'm not gonna do it. It just adds a little bit more of a charm to the actual scene here. I'm gonna hit play again. I'm just gonna sit back now. And there's the sound. I'm gonna set some back to my sound playing. Play this again. It just looks better now. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not perfect, but you know, for like an hour, this is not bad, right? So again, outdoor scenes are difficult because you don't have that many light sources. So you have to be a little bit more. I want to turn up the grid. That's not a grid. That's not a grid either. Grid. Wow. Where's the grid nowadays? Oh well. Hey, doesn't matter. So outdoor scenes are more difficult because you only have like two light sources, like normal light sources, so the sun / moon and the skybox. My tip is always start at the ambient lighting and then work your way up. So first do the ambient lighting, then get more and more into detail about the actual light placement. But first do ambient lighting because that will set the entire tone for the entire scene, which is really important that you do that. Oh, there's one button. So do that first, then you can worry about the rest. Oh, there it is. Shoo. Thank you. I do it again. Once you have that sorted out, then you can add more point lines or whatever what you want to add. You can also use emission. I can actually show that as well real fast. So I'm going to add a sphere here. I'm going to add it here. Beautiful sphere. I'm going to make a new material real fast. Best naming ever. I'm going to assign to my sphere. And I want to add emission to this. So I'm going to scroll down here and if I can find it again. Emission. I want to use something like yellow. I'm going to pump it up. Oof. Let's make it bigger. So I want to set the global luminance to baked. It's a little bit easier. And I really want to turn down my bloom by a lot. Back to 1. So I'll go back to my game now. Oh, that looks really bad. I'm going to turn off bloom altogether. That's better. So right now, like this object here is actually lighting the entire scene. So I'm lighting the scene. I'm going to bake it real fast. Shouldn't take that long again. There you go. So emission will actually light scenes, which is really cool. But you just want to be careful, right? In this case, you can see, I mean, something like this is nice, but you don't want to go overboard. Don't do something like this, you know. You can actually, oh wow. Let's not do this. Let's do like something like +1 or 0 or 2 in this case. Then you get a nice subtle, but this is actually really cool, right? You can actually use this to light scenes or whatever you want to do. Since I've baked the data in front, I can actually move it around now and create lighting. Now, if you want this object to move though, let's do this real fast. I'm gonna create an animation here. So I'm gonna go window, animation. I'm gonna create a new clip. I'm gonna call this sure, whatever. So I want to add a property here. I want to add a transform and I want to add a position because I just want to move it. And then in here, I'm gonna move it to something like, I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. This is in seconds, by the way. Like 5 seconds it should be over here, right? Then you hit play, and I get beautiful animation of absolutely nothing because I didn't do this properly. Sorry. Okay, click here, click here, click here. There you go. Turn on record, and then we're gonna move it. And then you should see that the actually moving. In between here, you get a nice looking, beautiful looking animation here of an object slowly creeping towards the end, right? So you can already see, right, that the lighting information doesn't update, which kind of sucks. So right now when I hit play, the sphere should move. Actually updates it, which is nice. But if you have a character, right, for example, that doesn't move, you need to add a thing called light probe group or light probes, which is really actually interesting. So I'm gonna go here. So these are light probes, right? And those lighting will be baked into those probes, and everything that is not static will actually get the lighting information from those probes. So I'm gonna add them real fast. So I'm gonna edit them. You want to cover the entire scene, like literally the entire scene. So I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab these two of them. Put it up there, same for this one. And then you want to duplicate them. Duplicate selected. And again. And again. Now I'm lazy, so I'm going to do it like this. And again. And good enough. So same thing here. Duplicate selected. You just want to create like a field of those probes. A little bit more. Let's do more here. Duplicate selected. Let's do these two, duplicate them as well, and there you go. Now we're working 3D, right? So we also need to go here. I'm gonna grab them all a little bit up. You don't need to add that many of them, luckily. Duplicate and duplicate and duplicate. So now you can see, right? You get this giant field of light probes. And the lighting information will be baked into these probes, which the other objects can sample from, right? Which is actually really cool. So I'm going to turn this sphere here off. I don't want to have any emission anymore. But this one over here, so turn it off. No emission at all. It's just a sphere, right? Now if I were to bake this, it will actually bake the light probe group here, which what kind of you want to have, right? So I'm going to bake this real fast. I don't think it should take too long. Almost done. So it's now baking the light probes. Almost done. They say patience is a virtue, but sometimes, you know. So maybe overdid it with the light probes. There are a lot of them. Maybe a few too many. But it just looks cool, right? It just looks epic. Now for those who don't know what that is, like, what the fuck? But it just looks awesome. I don't know if you hear it, but my PC is like blowing hot air already. He doesn't like it that much. Okay. So this object will actually get lighting from the actual surroundings. So if I now move it, you can see the actual lighting change based on the direction that it's facing. Without the light probe group, it would actually not get the lighting. But you can see the update, right? Like here, it doesn't update properly because you need to add even more light probes. But we're not doing that because that will take forever. So let's make it a little bit more metallic here. Let's make it super shiny. You can see how it updates everything. So both the lighting information and the actual reflection as well. So it just does it all. There you go. Beautiful animation. Beautiful sound music as well. Stunning. Now you can see right already that the FPS dropped again because we didn't actually turn on the occlusion culling. Well, it is baked, but we don't visualize it. So I'm going to turn it on again. And then we got a little bit more in theory. Not that many, but yeah. awesome. So that was it. Thank you for watching, and next week same place, same time. Probably C# programming for those who are interested in it. So I'll see you again soon.